Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So one of my favorite things about the Halloween franchise is that there are so many iconic moments from the franchise. Like every time we go to watch one of the Halloween movies, you know that moment that you're thinking of, right? I mean, they could be funny, they could be just awesome kills, they could be an awesome dialogue from like Dr. Loomis, for example, because he has so many iconic dialogue moments in the franchise. It could be anything, but we all have those moments when we plug in the movie where we're just excited to watch it the 100th time as we were the first time. But anyways, for me, like there's so many that I just had to boil it down a little bit, and I boiled it down to the point where I had 14 moments that I felt like were my top favorite moments for the franchise. And I want to go over those with you guys today and just have some fun with this, because every time I think about these moments, I just get excited and want to go plug the movie in and just watch it again. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Number 14 on my list is going to be from Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and more specifically, it's the part where Michael Myers is finally introduced after we've seen Laurie go through this gruesome surgery and whatnot. It was really very crude and gross, but at the same time it was very interesting, I guess. But anyway, this is the first time we see Michael. The nurse turns the corner, looks at Laurie, and her face is cut up, and Michael just comes around the corner and then he just kills the nurse. That was just like one of the most like savage and most brutal kills in the franchise. I mean, he reared the knife back and just started like going at her. I mean, my goodness. Every time I watch Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, like that moment still just is like kind of jaw dropping and crazy. I'm just like, man, he just annihilated that lady. But anyway, that's my number 14 moment from the Rob Zombie Halloween 2 movie, when he ends up killing the nurse and just how savage that scene was. Number 13 is going to be the iconic orange mask from Halloween 4. Now, every time I watch Halloween 4, especially when I'm watching it with somebody new that's never seen the movie before, I always rewind or pause at that scene in the school where Michael's throwing Loomis through the door, because we see the ridiculous, most horrendous mask in the franchise, in my opinion, besides the CGI mask, which was the orange mask. I don't know why. It's just every time I see it, it's like kind of like a little Easter egg, and it's really funny because it's so fast that you wouldn't notice it if you weren't really paying attention. But us seasoned vets of the franchise know where it is and how to look for it and whatnot. So anyway, it's just like, you know, it's just funny to look at. You know, it's like, especially like I said, when I'm watching with somebody new, I always pause it right there, just rewind it, and we just laugh or whatever, because it's so ridiculous that they had this random orange mask in the movie. But anyways, that's my number 13 moment, is seeing the orange mask from Halloween 4. Number 12 on the list is going to be Big John and Little John. I absolutely love Big John and Little John in Halloween Kills. They are hysterical. I love their characters. I love the whole back and forth between them when they're kind of going through the house and you hear Big John and the other one's like Little John. And that whole moment was tense because Michael is in the house. He's in the house, and there's a lot of suspense to it, but there's also just this kind of like, it's not taking itself too seriously, but then at the same time, when they're killed off, I'm like hurt by it. I'm like, man, I didn't want Michael to kill Big John and Little John because I like their characters so much in Halloween Kills. But nevertheless, every time I watch Halloween Kills, I get excited to see the Big John, Little John stuff, because they're both hysterical. I love that whole banter when they're kind of going through the house trying to figure out who's in their house, and it ends up being Michael. And they do have a poetic death because they died just like their picture and whatnot. But yeah, Big John and Little John from Halloween Kills is going to be number 12 for me. All right, so number 11 on the list is going to be when Myers kills the entire sanitarium in Halloween 6. This part during the producer's cut specifically, because that's where this happens, was insane. I mean, you don't really see a lot of it. It's more or less just kind of, you know, cutaway stuff, but man, there's just blood flying everywhere. He's killing all these doctors and things like that in the sanitarium. It's insane. I mean, I was not expecting that when that kind of came up, because Halloween 6 itself is kind of like pretty tame in my opinion with the kills. I mean, there's some cool ones, like, you know, seeing the stepdad get killed or the dad get killed and whatnot. Like, there's some cool ones, but for the most part, it's pretty tame. And then when we get to that moment in Halloween 6 where he's just massacring all these doctors and nurses in the sanitarium, that's a crazy moment. And it's a moment that when I watch the producers cut, I look forward to seeing, because it is really iconic. So at number 11 again is when Myers kills the entire sanitarium, or kills all the nurses and doctors in Halloween 6. All right, so number 10 on the list is going to be when Myers busts through the door in Rob Zombie's Halloween. Now, there's a moment in the movie where a lot of you may remember this, where Michael is pursuing Laurie, and she locks the door behind her, and the kids are all screaming, he's outside or whatever, and then you see Myers' face come up to the door after he slams into it, and then they all back away, they're screaming, and then Myers just blasts through the door, right? I love that part of the movie. It's so intense. The shaky cam, yeah, it's a little bit much at times, but it's like if you can feel the impact of Myers just blasting through this door, right? I love that moment. It's one of the things that I look forward to seeing the most, is that whole pursuit scene with him blasting through the door, him pursuing them upstairs, eventually busting through the glass window. Like, that whole sequence is awesome, but more specifically, when Myers during that moment busts through the door, and just how intense and how he pauses for a second, everybody's just going crazy and screaming. I love that moment. So number 10 for me is going to be when Myers busts through the door in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2007. Number 9 is going to be the flashback scene from Halloween Kills. Now, it's more than a moment, it's an entire scene, but I love the whole flashback scene from Halloween Kills. It was beautifully done. Everything looked like it was authentic 1978. They just did such a phenomenal job, and it gave me some ideas of like, man, I wish they would go back and remake the whole 1978 movie in this vibe and the theme with the updated stuff and whatnot. It would have been really cool, but regardless, I love what they did with the flashback scene in Halloween Kills. It was beautiful. I love the mask. I like the whole intensity of the scene. I like how they were able to bring back Dr. Loomis. I mean, he looked just like him. I mean, it was really cool. So anyways, the whole flashback scene from the Halloween Kills movie is number 9 on my list. Number 8 on my list is again from Halloween Kills, and it's when the mob goes against Myers. Now, it's a two-part thing because obviously the mob goes against him and they end up beating Myers and he gets knocked out or whatever, and then he eventually comes back to life and kills the entire mob. I'm more specifically talking about the first fight, even though yes, the mob kills him, but there's that moment where he's pursuing Karen, who took his mask, and then he ends up being surrounded by the mob and whatnot. All the lights come on and he's just sitting there looking around at everybody, and he's unfazed. I absolutely love it. Myers is just completely unfazed. All he does is just lean down, grab his mask, put it on, and just looks at everybody, says, "What's up? We're gonna do this?" You know, it was awesome. It was just, the music was perfect. The whole scene was perfect because it was the whole town of Haddonfield versus one man, Michael Myers. I just love that whole sequence of the mob versus Michael Myers in Halloween Kills. Number 7 on my list is gonna be when Laurie cuts Michael's head off in H2O. Now, up until this moment in H2O, there was no moment in the franchise where Myers was just definitively killed off, right? Yes, technically after Halloween 2 in 1981, he was shot in the eyes and burned. I get it. But quote unquote, he didn't die. I mean, he just might have been incapacitated because of the fire, and they retconned it in 4 anyway. But him getting his head cut off, that's pretty final, in my opinion, unless he finds a way to reattach his head. But no, seriously. That was like a really like epic moment. Nobody expected that. Nobody expected that, especially from this H2O film. We thought they were just gonna milk it and just keep bringing it back for more. Maybe Myers survives the situation and they clash again. But she literally just reared back, chopped his head off, and everybody in the theaters at the time were just shocked. They're like, holy crap, they actually definitively killed Myers in this movie. So definitely Laurie cutting Michael's head off in H2O is gonna be number 7 on my list because it's so iconic. So number 6 on the list is gonna be I Shot Him 6 Times from Halloween 2. Oh my goodness, like every time I watch Halloween 2 and I hear Dr. Loomis running around saying, "I shot him 6 times." It's funny, but it's just so iconic. Everybody made that a meme, but at the same time, the Halloween franchise wouldn't be anything without that, without Dr. Loomis mentioning the fact he shot him 6 times, which I believe he actually shot him 5 times, but who cares? It's awesome. It's an iconic moment from Halloween 2, and yeah, number 6 on the list is gonna be I Shot Him 6 Times from Halloween 2. All right, again from Halloween Kills, number 5 on my list is gonna be where Michael Myers comes out of the burning house. Man, that scene, just when he comes out, he just looks pissed. His mask is half burned. He grabs the fireman's pole thing and just slams it in his hand. He's like, I'm done playing games. Like, that whole scene was just incredible. You know, Halloween Kills itself has story issues and whatnot, but it was full of like incredible moments, and there was none better than seeing Michael just come out of the burning house and just annihilate all these firemen, right? It's just, to me, I will just watch the beginning of Halloween Kills just to see that moment. That's all I want to see, is just Myers just go through the firemen in the house. Then he comes out of the house just with the half-burned mask now. He just picks up the thing and just goes to town on all the firemen. So number 5 on my list is when Myers comes out of the burning house in Halloween Kills. Number 4 on my list is gonna be when the camera's following Myers around in Halloween 2018. That whole sequence when we're finally seeing Myers back in Haddonfield and we see the trick-or-treaters and the trick-or-treaters run into Myers, and then immediately the camera starts following him around as he stalks around the neighborhood and starts systematically killing people. That is one of the most well-shot scenes in the entire franchise. It's definitely an iconic moment moment for me. Every time I watch Halloween 2018, I just look so forward to getting to that moment in the movie where we're just following Myers around with the camera. It is just so cool. It was such a good idea. They did a similar version of that in Halloween 2 from a POV perspective, whereas Michael's perspective, and it was cool, and I liked it at the time, but they just took it to another level. I thought in 2018 they absolutely nailed it, and I want to see more of this from the franchise. I should do this a little bit more often, but yeah. Number 4, where the camera's following Myers through the town in 2018, is easily one of the top moments on my list. All right, so number 3 on my list is gonna be when Jamie kills her stepmom in Halloween 4. Now, with this particular moment, I remember exactly where I was when I saw this for the first time. I was with my friend Eric. We were watching all the Halloween movies at that time in like one day. We ended up watching like Halloween 1 through 5 in one sitting after we went to rent the majority of them from Blockbuster. And I just remember when I was even young watching this, thinking that I just couldn't process what happened, because all of a sudden Jamie's putting the mask on. We're like, actually, we don't even know it's Jamie. It's just a POV like we got in Halloween 1. The mask comes down and then she's killing her stepmom, right? And then at the top of the stairs, she's standing there. Loomis is just in shock and he wants to just kill her. The officer stops her. And just that whole moment is filled with so much dread and it's just so ominous and whatnot. And I'm just like, that moment still to me sticks out. One of the best endings in the franchise, period. It was the most ominous. We just didn't know where they were gonna go. When I was initially going into Halloween 5, I thought they were just gonna pick up the story and we're gonna get something with Jamie being a killer or being screwed up. And of course, we didn't get that in Halloween 5. But yeah, number 3 on my list is going to be when Jamie kills her stepmom in Halloween 4, because it's easily one of the best moments in the franchise as well. Number 2 on the list is going to be when Myers is coming out of the shadows. There is no better shot in that movie than when Laurie's against the wall. She's like freaking out. She's scared to death. And then all of a sudden, Myers' face starts appearing in the shadow of the doorway. There is no better scene in that movie than that one. That's just like such a tense and scary scene, especially for that time frame. I bet people that saw this movie in the theaters were scared out of their minds to slowly see Myers come into frame and whatnot as his face comes in, and then he goes after Laurie and she falls on the stairs, and that's where she gets her classic like cut on the arm that we see in 2018 in movies like that. But anyways, yeah, there's no better scene in my opinion than Myers coming out of the shadows in Halloween 1978, and that's going to be number 2 on my list. All right, so now for my number 1 moment in the Halloween franchise, and that's going to be when Myers gets his mask back in Halloween 2018. I remember when I was in the theater and after we did the whole bit with the reporters and the mask and all that stuff, and then they're trying to drive away and Michael follows them to the gas station. He ends up killing them off and getting getting the jumpsuit and whatnot. When he opens the trunk and just how the music kind of stops and there's like a slow like ambience to it, like there's just like a little bit of music and we can hear it like kind of build up, and then Michael opens the trunk in a slow motion and he grabs the mask, he looks at it, and then he puts it on, and just like that picture right there of him like standing at the back of the car with the mask back on, and how decrepit, and this is the first time we've actually seen him with the mask on in 40 years and it's just withered. It's just, to me, it's just the best shot in any of the Halloween movies. I absolutely love that whole sequence of just how slow motion it is, how there's just an ambience to it. It's like it's intense. Like as a longtime Halloween fan, it was just like sends shivers down my spine to see Myers just acquire his mask back, and he puts it on, and just like you could tell he just became one with himself and he was just back to being Michael Myers again. So anyways, yes, my number 1 moment for the whole franchise, and by far my favorite moment, is when Myers gets his mask back in Halloween 2018. All right, well, that's my favorite moments in the Halloween franchise. Make sure you check out these videos on screen where I go over all my favorite timelines for the Halloween franchise, as well as all my favorite masks. But anyways, guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.